You pay a bit more money and you get to go to heaven. And one of the conditions of this is that you have to be a pious person. Well, tell me, brothers and sisters, who judges piety?
Allah.
Exactly. How does Mirza Ghulam Ahmad or his people know who is pious and who is not? Loads of Ahmadis I knew about used to say the whole thing is a scam and that some really, really evil people are getting buried there and that they didn't even contribute 1/10 to 1/3 anyway. There are lots of different types of collections that they do, but Chandam is the main one. Yes, brother?
Yes, since I came in this country in 1997, I heard about it. Qadianis, they are offering jobs for the people coming abroad. And we haven't got any idea about, especially for these chicken shops and the halal chicken shops, are they belongs to Qadianis or are they belongs to Muslims? So have you got any idea about that? About the jobs, if they are offering a job for the people coming from the India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka or other parts of the countries, and they are offering a job if you are believe on Qadiani. So we will give you a job and accommodation, these sort of things. I just want to confirm about this thing.
The question was, do Qadianis from the UK provide jobs to immigrants from India and Pakistan? And secondary part of that was, how do you know if the chicken that you're buying is provided by a Qadian? And of course, this is very important. The one thing I learned as a Muslim very recently was that unless you eat halal, your dua is invalid for 40 days. Is this correct? I didn't know this. So I now, alhamdulillah, I eat halal. A lot of Qadianis don't. They eat any old thing. They don't eat pork. Not always, but they don't all eat halal, and they don't think it's important. And every Qadiani I ever met never considered the importance of this. Sometimes when they had functions, they would do that. Anyway, going back to your point about the job. Obviously, like any small community, they will help people who come in. And from the centre, sometimes they will provide something very little. But there's not a major thing as far as I'm aware about providing jobs. Having said that, there are lots of businesses where they employ only Qadianis. And when that's owned by Qadianis. But the same is true of any small community anyway. I mean, in the 1930s, the Jewish community in this country was similar. They would look after their own people. But make no mistake about it, their loyalty is to other Qadianis, not to Muslims. Muslims they consider the enemy. They'll mix freely with Jews, they'll mix freely with Christians, but they will not mix freely with Muslims. And if they do mix with Muslims, they won't make it clear that they're Qadiani. I hope that answers the question. Is there a question from the sisters at all? Can we take one from the sisters?
Yes. Any sisters?
Can someone ask if any of the sisters have a question, please? Okay.
Probably is connection to the brother's question. Like, what are the general perceptions for the Qadianis, or how they attract the normal Muslims? The techniques they adopt. Maybe one of the techniques they used to adopt, like offer jobs. But what are the general techniques that most of the Muslim brothers must have to aware? Like, these are the way they attract or they approach the Muslim brothers, especially the youngsters. And these are the verses. For example, we had too many times like, this is our belief, this is our belief, this is our belief. But how they interpret our verses according to their meaning, this is one of the questions. And secondly, how they approach and what they offer to the Muslim brothers, especially the youngsters, and how, I know, like, alhamdulillah, the forum is there, we can contact them. What are the best possible things we can adopt to safeguard ourselves?
Okay.
Sorry, before you answer that, there is a question from one of the sisters. If you could expand about the center in Israel. Yes, can you do that later after this?
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll come back to the Israeli question in a minute. Sorry, Occupy Palestine. So your question again, brother. You were asking. Sorry, where is it gone? So the techniques of that the Qadianis employ to beguile young Muslims into their deviant creed. Okay, this is interesting. They invite people over for tea. Right? They'll come over to our place for tea. They won't necessarily say that they're Qadiani. And they'll start some discussion on the death of Isa alayhi salam. This is their big issue. They always talk about the status of Isa alayhi salam. You know, anyone would think that the Qadianis were Christians. They go on about Isa alayhi salam so much. This is a central point. They try and weaken the iman of a Muslim on the status of Isa alayhi salam. And the response should be, let's not talk about Isa alayhi salam. That is not the central foundation upon which our Aqidah is built. There are other much more important aspects to Aqidah that come before this issue. So that should always be the defense. As soon as someone starts talking about the status of Isa alayhi salam, you have to make sure that the alarm bells start going off loud and clear. You know, potentially this person is a Qadiani. So ask them. You don't happen to be a believer in Mirza Ghulam Ahmad by any chance, do you? That will immediately put them on the back foot. They won't be expecting that. So anybody who asks you about Isa alayhi salam, do you think he's in the heavens? They're very disgusting, actually. Some of the techniques that Mirza Tahir, who was their fourth so-called Khalifa, used to talk about Isa alayhi salam. I don't know if anyone ever saw this on the recording on YouTube or on MTA or anything, but he said, so he used to joke, he used to say, is Isa alayhi salam, is he floating? Is he eating? Is he this, that, and the other? I found that disgusting. Look, we don't know how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works. We don't know the systems that he employs. We don't know anything about his majesty or power. Who are we to know? As the brother before was saying, I think it was Brother Shahid, Brother Sajid, that if God says something, we just have to believe it. We don't necessarily know. Sometimes the truth of what is explained in the Quran doesn't become clear to us for thousands of years. Only 100 years ago we were beginning to learn truths that were foretold in the Quran 1400 years ago. What if 1300 years ago some Qadiani of the time, for example, had been saying, well, do you believe this, do you believe that? Suddenly, 1300 years down the road, your iman is lost. So we have to be very careful not to engage in these issues. You know, we just say, Allahu alim, we don't know. You know? And refer to somebody who does know. If you're unsure about your own faith on these matters, then consult someone who does know. Speak to someone at Khatme Nabuwat, they'll be able to set you straight on these issues. They'll tell you about what the orthodox beliefs of Muslims are. There are some other beliefs as well. One very important thing I should stress, brothers and sisters, we should not jump to takfir. This is very dangerous. Okay? I don't jump to takfir anymore. Okay? Not even to individual Qadianis. I don't know. God knows. I have to trust the unanimous consensus, the ijma of the ulama who have declared the Qadianis as a whole to be outside the fold of Islam. They're not Muslims. So when we talk about Qadianis, we're not talking about a group of Muslims who are outside the fold of Islam. We're talking about non-Muslims, just like Christians and Jews. Yeah? So anyway, going back to your point, these people, how they approach, they'll be soft, they'll be gentle, they'll invite you for a cup of tea, and they'll start talking to you about Isa alayhi salam. What was your other question?
Maybe similar to what you said, how they approach. The first thing we have heard, they offer a nationality, or if they get any issues getting marriage or offering jobs. So I would like you to highlight the issues as well, because alhamdulillah, if we are very close to our mosque and ulama ikram, these things are very tempting. So we normally get into these aspects. So I would like you to highlight these type of issues, what they could offer you, and help you to start discussion.
Okay, the brother talked about possible financial or material incentives that would attract you to Qadianism. My answer to that is very, very simple. If you're swayed by financial or material matters, then you're not much good to be a Muslim anyway. My deen doesn't come at a price. My deen does not come at a price. I was happy, in 2004, I was happy to sacrifice everything to be Muslim. When I did my sajda, for the first time in my life in 2004, I said, if I die now, I won't be unhappy. That is how to be a Muslim. No regrets. You should be prepared to go to your Creator at any time with no regrets. Now, if you sold your deen for some money or some material gains or to get a job, for example, there are some people in India and Pakistan who come over here on a visa claiming asylum and say that they're Qadianis. And then they come over here and they stop mixing with the Qadianis after a while. My deen is not worth a visa. So before I come to you, my uncle, I need to answer the question from the sisters. The sisters asked about the center in occupied Palestine. They have a center